r/ask Reddit doctors of Reddit. What is the weirdest thing a patient wouldn't admit? Not a doctor but a nurse. Had a patient come in with a toothpick in his penis. Refused to tell me how it got in there, insisting he was picking his teeth, and it fell in. The old head on a stick. Being pregnant and also a virgin. People actually believe women can get inseminated in a public pool or after their parents had sex in the jacuzzi and the girl uses the jacuzzi and is inseminated by the father. I was once marked as pregnant by mistake. When I went into the ER they were talking about the tests they needed to run, but they couldn't give me medication because of the baby. At that point I said, hold up, there is no way I'm pregnant. The nurse looked at me and rolled her eyes. I told her that I've only ever slept with women in the last couple of years, so there was no way I was pregnant. One of the other nurses reran the pregnancy test, and turns out I wasn't pregnant. I admitted a guy for chest pain. As part of the workup, I did a urine drug screen which came back positive for cocaine. After the rest of his cardiac workup was negative, I said to him, good news, you didn't have a heart attack. It's likely that your chest pain was caused by cocaine. His answer, I didn't use cocaine. See, I was at a party and people had some lines of cocaine out on a table. As I was walking by, an oscillating fan blew the cocaine into my face, which is why my urine was positive. Got it. Yeah, cause parties with cocaine on the table frequently have fans near the coke. That's why it's an oscillating fan. You make a game of timing your lines between the fan sweeps. Obligatory, not a doctor. I'm a nurse. We had a patient come into the operating room for brain surgery. Probably a mid-50s guy with a nice head of light brown hair. Before a patient comes into the actual, or we ask them a series of questions, including whether they have any implants, jewelry, non-hospital clothes on, etc. Guy says no to all the questions. After the patient gets put to sleep, the surgeon grabbed his hair to start shaving it off, because you know, brain surgery, and all his hair peeled off because he was wearing a wig and didn't tell us. We almost shaved his hairpiece because he wouldn't admit to anyone he wore it. There was a dignified British actor called Anthony Ainley who played the Doctor Who archenemy the Master in the 1980s. He wore a hairpiece in real life, but refused to ever admit it and took great pains to hide it. There was a Who story in which the Master was in disguise as another alien character who was bald, and, as Ainley passed away long ago, people who worked on the show now freely tell the behind the scenes story of how he insisted, well then, we'll have to do a bald cap, won't we? No matter how much the Macup department tried to gently hint that there might be a simpler option. So, the Macup folks dutifully sat this gentleman in his Macup chair and proceeded to stretch a rubber bald cap over his toupee. Of course they couldn't quite make it work. That's an insane thing to try to do. In deference to the actor's vanity, they took him from the communal Macup area back to his own dressing room, did his alien Macup onto his actually bald head, then brought him back out and pretended they had just done a very successful bald cap and everyone else just went along with it. I say this as a comfortably bald guy myself. Some people can get very freaking weird about hiding their baldness. Nurse here. Had parents bring their 3-year-old son to the emergency department for 1 month of abdominal pain that kept getting worse. I ask all the routine questions for this complaint. Lots of questions about his poop. Is it bloody? Diarrhea? Mucus? When was his last bowel movement? Any changes in the stool? They deny any other concerning symptoms but abdominal pain. We do blood work, ultrasound, x-ray. Everything comes back completely normal, but the kid is intermittently screaming in pain, curled in a ball. Over the next 5 hours I continue to repeat the same questions. I asked repeatedly if there was anything else going on that they could think of. Nope. The kid just doesn't seem well, but we have no reason to keep him. We decide to watch him a little longer. Let him eat. The kid eats a bunch, a PBJ, apple juice, crackers, popsicle. No pain, so we decide to send them home. I bring in the discharge paperwork and I'm about to start going over instructions and their dad goes, you know, for the past 3 months he's had a lot of worms in his poop. Worms ducking worms. You spent 6+ hours denying worms. I literally just turned around and walked out of the room without saying a word. I was laughing almost to the point of tears. Could not wait to tell my resident. Deworming medications, a shitload of wasted time, and they were on their way. One of my lecturers told us a story of when he worked in ED. There was a man who refused to acknowledge or tell them how a jar got stuck in his rectum. They were taking him to the OR as it has created a vacuum seal and couldn't be removed without shattering, but realized his BSL, blood sugar level, was off the charts. Really high. They were considering postponing the surgery to work out what the F was going on. When he ended up talking, he told them the jar was full of honey before it got lodged and was rapidly absorbed by the rectum, causing the insane levels. What? Oh bother. I'm a pediatric dentist, so maybe not the type of doctor you were looking for, but this one throws me for a loop every time, so I'll share it. When I sedate kids, they have to be NPO for 8 hours before, so I always ask if they had anything to eat or drink in the morning. Parents never want to admit their kid ate or drank, even when I remind them it's very important, because if they vomit and aspirate they could die. Often they try to minimize it and say it was just a few bites, but one kid walked in eating a bag of Cheetos at reception, and then the parent insisted to me that they hadn't eaten. Yeah, I'm 100% not sedating your child today. How stupid can parents be? Don't they understand the risks? We have multiple outbreaks of treatable viruses that have been curable/manageable for 40 years thanks to the scientific breakthroughs with vaccines. And you're asking if they understand anything? Obligatory, not a doctor. Used to work PR and marketing in an inner city hospital. Was once hanging out with the folks when a regular came in. He was into self-harm. This would have been in 2000/2001 or so, and I was young, so I had never even heard of this. This guy had spent hours burying a Phillips head screwdriver in his abdomen, carefully working it around major organs. He was a Vietnam medic and had some training, so he could feasibly do it. He straight up said, "What screwdriver? You all are crazy." The attending was staring right at the x-ray and the handle of the screwdriver sticking out of his abdomen. The screwdriver must have been 4 inches long. I still shudder. I once had a patient come in with large calluses on the front of his ankles, which is a very unusual place to get calluses. I brought it up a few times because I thought maybe he was wearing his shoe wear improperly, but he kept waving off the question. Eventually I got him to admit that the calluses are there because he recently started taking a prescription antidepressant medication which made it very difficult for him to achieve orgasm. He found that if he lay on his living room carpet with his legs bent out beneath him in a W fashion and jerked off for several hours, he was able to achieve orgasm. Nurse here had a patient accuse me of crapping in her bed and threatened to sue me for malpractice. Keynote: she never got out of her bed. Nursing assistant here: I've been accused of crapping in the corner of a patient's room. She did it and then tried to blame some really nondescript man as the culprit after realizing no one believed it was me. I've also been accused of killing babies and burying them in the hospital basement. Had a patient in hospital, I forget what for. The point is that he disappeared for a few hours. When he came back he was tachycardic to 160 beats per minute. Massive pupils, couldn't sit still. We asked him what he'd taken while he was out. Nothing, he swears. He went to the pub and just drank lemonade. Okay, we say, we're gonna take some blood and find out what you've taken. He then pipes up say the friends he was with would think it was funny to spike his drink. What? We asked. Did he think they might have spiked his drink with speed? He says. What do you know? Bloods confirmed that he had taken speed, but he insists he didn't take it. His drink was spiked. I'm a nurse. I had a kid once who I needed to get a urine sample from. He was 8. I gave him a cup and pointed him to the bathroom. I went to check on my other patients and came back. Kid was still in the bathroom. I go knock on the door. Hey buddy, you okay in there? Sink on full blast. Yep. Everything's fine. I go back to his room a few minutes later and he hands me a bag full of water with a cup inside that also appears to be water. I pour the water out of the bag. Hey buddy, are you sure this is urine in this cup? Yay. My pee is always clear. Patient is wheeled off to the x-ray. I check the temperature of the so-called urine in the cup. It was ironically the same temperature as the water from the faucet. Come on little homie, you gotta do better than that. I had a similar case in the peds ER. A 9-year-old girl was asked to give a urine sample and insisted she could do it herself. So off she went. When she came back, the nurses and doctor commented it looked odd, almost clear. and asked her a bunch of times if she really peed directly into it or if it was water, to which she said it was pee. Finally we asked her one last time and she admitted she peed into the toilet, then used the cup to scoop the pee out of the bowl. I did exactly this when I was 9 as well. The doctor said fill this with pee up to the line, not pee into the cup. So I thought I was doing it right. This one is sad. From my old roommate. Girl had a very large lump on her breast that she didn't tell the doctors about. She actually went to the hospital for migraines, saying they were getting increasingly bad. When they found the lump, they asked why she didn't say she had that. She said she knew it was going to kill her eventually, but she just wanted to get rid of the migraines because they giving her a lot of pain in her last months. That they don't know how to read. I've been taught the trick of handing a paper upside down to them to see if they can read. It's good to know if they don't, so you can make extra sure they have a full understanding of their instructions instead of saying to read the details on the sheet. When was their last meal? They think they can fool their PET scan, end up losing money, time and over irradiated. I feel your frustration to my soul. Sir, have you eaten this morning? Nope. Not since before midnight. Meanwhile I'm looking at a sliver of contracted gallbladder. Are you sure? Because I would hate for this test to come back incorrect and you end up meeting with a surgeon when you don't need to. I might have had a couple of waffles and eggs. Once had a woman come in for a possible yeast infection. On exam she had a glass bottle stuck in her vaginal filled with urine. Totally wouldn't admit it was hers or explain how it got there even after we removed it. Just kept saying I think this is all a joke and you put it up there. Yeah. She was totally trying to cheat a drug test. Definitely. The bottle had an overly complicated apparatus which allowed her to discreetly trigger the urine to come out, which made it all the more weird she pretended we hadn't just pulled CIA tech out of her cooch. Other than all the random things that end up in rectums accidentally. Drunk electrician with the longest drill bit I've ever seen sticking through both legs and impaling his scrotum in between like a really gross kebab. He was so drunk he thought he broke his hip. Denied owning any drill bits or for that matter having been drinking. Most common are the numerous drug/tox screens we do that come back positive for something and everyone is shocked, borderline offended it got into their system. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and check for daily uploads.